All right, this video is for the lesson 4.8 homework. So we're getting into triangles being congruent to each other. Congruent means the sides are the same, the angles are the same. Okay? These little marks help you match up. And order matters, the order that you write these in. So this one wants to know, triangle DEF is congruent to what? So the order that we write these letters in matters. The letter that comes first over here is D. So I'm going to go look at D. What do you notice about angle D? Well, how many marks does it have? One. So I go to this figure and I find the angle that has one mark. So if D is first over here, K, which is the match, one little mark, has to be the first letter here. Order matters. Big time. Then we go to the middle letter. The middle letter is E. How many marks are in that angle? So on the other figure, which angle has 2 marks? J. And then always check and make sure. Last letter is F. F has 3 marks. Over here, L has 3 marks. Matching up the symbols. The sides are the same way. Okay? How I had 8th graders do this. Okay? We would write the letters down. So like D, E, F, and K, J, L. And we would say, okay, the first 2 letters make the first side, and the first 2 letters make the first side. So DE has to go with side KJ. And if you look, they both have 1 mark. Okay, those are congruent sides. And then we'd go and we'd do the last 2. EF has to go with JL. EF has to go with JL. 2 marks, 2 marks. And then the last thing we would do is we would look at the first letter and the last letter. I think what we ended up doing was we would highlight the first 2, we would underline the last 2 just to try to keep different marks, and then we'd put dots underneath the first and the last. So DF is the first and the last, KL is the first and the last. And then you can look, they both have 3 marks. And so this one, you couldn't even turn this picture around to make it look like this one. You would have to turn it around and then you'd have to reflect it. So they're not always going to be like perfect little images of each other, that they're just turned a little bit different. Sometimes they're flipped and rotated and reflected. And so that's why we go off the letters. Okay? All right, name the corresponding angle or side. So, order matters. Triangle TUV is congruent to GFE. So again, look at the placement. It wants to know angle U is congruent to what angle? So angle U is in the middle. What letter is in the middle on the other name? F. So that has to be the congruent angle. Angle F. So you can match up the signs, the symbols. You can match up the order of the letters. The sides are the same way. So if I was going to say, what side matches up with UV? What side on this one would match up with UV? FE, because UV are the last 2. FE is the last 2 over there. Okay? Follow that pattern, the order of the letters. All right, finally, here's really the main part. This is like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade stuff. But I know it's been a while. We've slept since then. Okay? Here's the main piece of today. It says determine the criteria that proves the triangles are congruent. And that's where these notes come in super handy. Here's our options. We can have side, side, side. That's where all 3 sides over here match up with all 3 sides over here. We can have side, angle, side. They have to touch. Okay? So if you look here, this side, this angle, this side. So see how they're in order? It's the side, then immediately the next angle that you hit, and then the side. Has to be the same over here. So these sides match, these angles match, these sides match. Okay? We've got angle, side, angle. Same deal. You've got to follow that pattern. You can't skip a side. You can't skip an angle. So angle, and then immediately the next side that you come to, and then immediately that next angle. Okay, so it's a side sandwiched in between two angles. And again, look at the symbols. And then we've got angle, angle, side. Angle, and then the next angle, and then immediately the next side. That's the only one that you really get to skip over a side. Okay? And then hypotenuse, leg. So this one, if the hypotenuse and a leg of one right triangle are congruent to the corresponding parts of another right triangle, then they're congruent. So if the hypotenuses of the right triangle, remember those are the ones that don't touch that right angle. If the hypotenuses are the same, and then one of the legs, as long as one of the leg matches, then they're congruent. Automatically that means this side, they're the same. So ones that aren't congruent. 3 angles of a triangle congruent to 3 angles of another triangle. Just because the angles are the same doesn't mean they're congruent. Similar, we'll get to that later. That's similarity when all the angles or just the angles match, or that's all the information that you have. And then the other thing is called this swing side. Like if I would take this triangle, and you can kind of see here, like I flipped it, like made a copy, reflected it. The possible swing side, AB, can create 2 different triangles. Both triangles have 2 sides and a non-included angle that are congruent, but they're not congruent triangles. Okay? So if you see that kind of flip, it doesn't necessarily work and make it congruent. The one that cannot happen, I'm sure that y'all noticed the letters that are being used. Here's how my geometry professor in college explained it to us. If you can't say it in class, it can't make congruent triangles. Everybody picking up what I'm putting down? Angle, side, side is not a way to prove congruency. You can't say the abbreviation in class, so you can't use it to prove congruence. Just kind of a good way. And it doesn't matter what way you write it. Side, side, angle. Can't write it that way. Okay? If those 3 letters are in combination, that's, I don't know, it's kind of a neat way how to teach high schoolers not to use that. Okay, so determine the criteria. So we've got a matching side, a matching angle, a matching side. Side, angle, side. So that would be SAS congruency. So what do we have in number 7? Yep. Side, side, side. If they give you numbers, okay, they've given us numbers here. So we can see what matches up, right? We've got this side. What do we come to next? This side, and then we come to, what's the next thing labeled? An angle. And then what's the next thing labeled? An angle. So we've got side, angle, angle, but again, where those notes come in handy, we write that as angle, angle, side. So same deal, kind of just match up the numbers. So again, side, angle, angle matches. Just make sure you write the letters in the same order. Okay? So rest of this page is yours as well.